Welcome back to the McMaster's Chronicles. I'm Jonathan,
I'm Joy.
and this is our dog Lawrence. Again, you all met him in the first video. Say, hey, Lawrence. So we just wanted to make another video to follow up and talk about really just the following 3 days after what transpired that first Wednesday night and the abuse that occurred that night. We are really just trying to continue to put out some videos along this timeline of the next 18 days before we actually officially left the church.
Yeah, basically, there's like an 18-day period of time from that July 24th, like we talked about in the previous video, where there was like a heightened occurrences of abuse, and like 3 days after, I don't mean like 3 days after, I mean that Thursday. So it was a Wednesday night service, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there was an all-out assault on Jonathan via text message.
From the lead pastor. Mm-hmm. So the reason why we want to say this is because I'm pretty positive for you still in there in this specific organization have endured some of these things very similar to this or are enduring currently. I know that things like this go on. They've gone on for years. Also, if you're not in this specific organization, you might be in another one that's like it. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that us just saying what happened and saying that it's wrong and it shouldn't have happened will help you see it whenever it's happening to you so you can stop and leave. So anyway, the day after that Wednesday night, the leader and I were texting. Mind you, remember, this was a man that was like a father figure to me. So anything that he said, I had to change whatever I was thinking and try to believe and follow him, no matter what it was, no matter good, bad, whatever. So I was doing that and trying to understand him and agree with him, but was struggling very much to do so because some of the things he was saying just were very wrong. So,
and I think most importantly, in that Thursday after you had that altercation after church, you said to him,
I said to him that it crossed the line when he damned me, that I wasn't okay with that. Mm-hmm. And he basically doubled down and said that was irrelevant how I felt and that I was damned and mm-hmm. that I had the choice then of how to move forward from it. So like we said, no apology, no nothing. But I got to the point where in our conversation that day where I had told him one of the reasons why I didn't communicate with him as much, didn't go to him for every little thing about my business was because I'd seen other people do that. And basically I called it being his pawn, somebody that he basically controlled. And while he didn't actually make the choices for these individuals or this individual, it was, I guess you can call it coercive control. It was kind of like the option that I was given where you're technically given options, but they're impossible options. And if you don't do what he says, then you are going to get in trouble. Then you are going to be wrong.
He's referring to the altercation on July 24th where he was shamed and demeaned for doing something
product
with the business that was not permitted approved by the lead pastor. And so it's kind of like that choice. What was his choice in that altercation? His choice was to either be sued or to do what this individual wanted him to do. So that's threat, that's threatening, that's coercive, and that's coercive control. Yeah.
So when I called that out, at that point, he then went on to say that it was a lie, that wasn't true, and that because I said that and believed that I was no longer saved, that I was damned, and then I needed to repent And
when you pointed out that individuals are being used as his pawns.
And then I then proceeded, the reason why it's those next 3 days, July 25th through 27th, is I proceeded to not agree with him on that. The Lord did save me on October 2nd, 2013. I know that was between me and the Lord. He did the work. I saw my sin. I repented. I know what happened that day. And then he proceeded to, in that conversation, act like the past 10, 11 years at the time was a lie, was all not true, which he tended to do that a lot with people. He would say like, oh, because of this thing, you've been this way forever, or for this past decade or whatever. He would totally rewrite history. So I defended myself. I said, no. I said, this is what happened. This is what I saw. And again, I'm still trying to at least do that and still understand and hear what he's trying to say. But I was definitely, for the first time, standing up for what I knew was right and what I knew was true. And he did not like it. I know, too, that he did not like it whenever I called this person his pawn, because I believe he knew then that I saw what was really happening, what he was really doing. And he wanted me to be submissive to him and listen to whatever he said. In those conversations, he used a lot that he was the pastor and that I needed to put my thinking down, and I just had to hear what he had to say. And what he had to say was the truth. And it was really like completely taking me out of it. I couldn't reference my salvation. I couldn't reference what the Lord had done in my life. I couldn't reference anything about what reality and truth was, because I just had to listen to what he said. And this goes to something that he would use, and a lot of the leaders in this church would use, is Matthew 18, where it talks about if you have a problem with your brother, then you bring it to them, and then it gives you steps to follow through. But the issue, what's so wrong in there, and if you're in there, hear this, because they make it absolutely impossible to follow that. Because once you bring a sin or an issue to the person, especially if it's a leader, they will automatically shut you down and say that you're lost. They go for the biggest, most important, eternal thing, and they go for your salvation. They say, well, you must be lost. You have to be lost. You can't know God. Well, then at that point, where do you have to go? You're going from seeing somebody's sin and trying to point it out to then, oh no, I must be lost and I'm the bad one. So then you can't bring it to a second person, a third person, or the whole congregation. It's impossible, because that person, the pastor, the leader, is automatically declaring that you're wrong, you're lost, and you have no right to say any of those things. So they would use that over you, but then tell you still that you're supposed to do it this way, which made it impossible. But at this point, I was bringing these things to him, and I was not agreeing with what he said. And another important part about this 3-day conversation is that I believe the Lord really used it in my life for me to see my salvation was not based on a man. My salvation was not based on this man specifically. My relationship with God was not based on this man, because I had almost equated anything he said and did as it has to be godly. Like, I put him on such a high pedestal because of the respect and honor that he demanded and said he was. He said that anything he would say to me, I had to do immediately, no questions asked. And that is obviously not in the Bible. But that's the level that I was having to deal with. And so this conversation, when he questioned my salvation based on me calling out something that I saw that was true, I then was able to see, wait, my salvation is not based on a man. My salvation is based on God and Jesus alone, nobody else. But still, these 3 days we talked. It was very stressful, very difficult. And he continued to call me names, continued to use language with me, and I have it all written down. And it was very harmful for me. However, the Lord used it to help me see the wrong that he was in. But still being bonded to him, maybe through a trauma bond, for my whole life, and you probably can speak more to what
Yeah, we can talk about
that
a trauma
is.
bond. Yeah.
I had to, at least in order for things to calm down, I had to agree with him enough to that he wasn't controlling people. And while it was very difficult for me to believe this, I wanted to believe it because I didn't want to be bad. I didn't want to be in sin. I didn't want to be lost. But having seen more things that transpired, I really see that what I was calling out and what I was seeing is true.
Yeah.
And
so I just want to say a few things just to comment on what you're saying. That feeling of like, having like part of why this is so heinous and so hard to endure is that like the one thing that is supposed to be like your comfort, like God, he's your comfort, God's your father, and the one person that you're supposed to go to whenever you're feeling conflicted, whenever you're feeling sad, whenever you're feeling scared, is God. And to have like someone just strip that away, just take that away from you and be like, you're not saved. What have you been doing? What's even going on? And you feel like this tremendous amount of like fear, and you would just do like anything, like you just want to do anything to get out of this. I would call it a tormenting feeling. And so it's torture, it's mental torture as a Christian. It's Christian mental torture.
The torment was not based on God's conviction. No. It was based on a man saying where you were and your place.
And that kind of is on the trauma bond. So like when you have a trauma bond with an individual, it's not just like some people can think a trauma bond means, oh, I'm bonding over trauma or I went through trauma with this person. That's not what it is. A trauma bond is when you have a bond with an abuser. So basically what that means is your internal feelings are dependent on if this other person is happy with you or not. If this person is upset with you, then you're upset. If this person's happy with you, then you have like the highest high. And so when you have a trauma bond with someone, and we all had a trauma bond with abusers, with the abusive leaders in there, you feel like you're like, oh, I want to make sure that like my relationship's good. What can I do to make sure this is good? And so he still was having that kind of pull even in the 3 days after this happened. But it, like you said, this interaction even helped you kind of.
It helped me, and it kind of ended somewhat amicably after a few days. But this was also still just the beginning. And while it was very traumatic and very like hard to hear these things from this individual in my life, think about the closest person in your life that you believe the most, that has the most impact on your life, saying these things to you. That's what it was. So it's not just some random person calling these things out. But it kind of, over the next week or so, things kind of calmed down a little bit in the sense of like the direct abuse. But we will prepare some videos in the upcoming weeks to share with you some of the final things that really got us to leave. And basically the things that we've said so far are bad, but they do not even compare. So again, thank you for watching. We're gonna post more videos too about just other things in our life. We want to share this story because we want people in there to know, other people to know, but we also just want to share our lives with y'all. So thank you again, and we will talk to you soon.